You could feel the tension as you'd go through the house. I would get off the school bus, I would run in, I'd dash to my room, bypass my mother, and hide away in my behind closed doors. My mother did not appreciate this, my not helping her with chores and just going off being selfish into my room. And she'd call me and say, "Elizabeth Ann," and I knew I was in trouble. "Get out here and help me with whatever it was." And I was not enthusiastic. I would come out and be in a mood, and I'd do whatever she asked me to do. But I had something else important that I was working on in my bedroom. It was top secret, and it was more important than helping my mother. My fellow Toastmaster friends, I was probably 8 years old at the time, and I was racking my brain trying to think, what can I get my mother for Christmas on an 8-year-old's budget? Now, my mother was the disciplinary in the family. My father worked a lot, he was on the road, so she set the rules. But I, as a young girl, always wanted to be like my mother, to look like my mother. And she was 5 feet 4 inches tall, but she seemed much taller than that to me as a young girl, because she would stand so tall, her shoulders back. And she'd always say, "Elizabeth Ann, stand up straight, and put your shoulders back." And that's how she would walk around. And she had this olive kind of complexion and black hair, where she would sweep it up real tight, and then she put it in a little bun, but not just any common bun. She would take it, a little piece, like an inch or so, and she'd wrap it around her finger, and she'd stick a bobby pin in it, and she had this beautiful, perfect crown of a bun on her head. And when she would go out, she was dressed very classic, like Ann Taylor, with skirts or dresses, and that's how she would go out. But when she was home, she was in a terry cloth robe with a long zipper, nothing special, but she did the cooking, she did the cleaning, and that was what she would wear inside the house. Well, again, I was racking my brain trying to figure out what to get Mom for Christmas. And at the time, I was taking sewing lessons from Mrs. Armstrong. Now, Mrs. Armstrong, she was great. She had a lot of patience. She really worked with me. She had blonde hair. And I'd say, compared to my mom, she was much more carefree, very relaxed. You felt real comfortable sitting with her. And she had her hair up. And she had blonde hair, but I don't think it was really blonde. And it was swept up into a bun, but it was a little messy, not perfect like my mother's. Well, I got an idea. I decided I would sew something for my mother. And I got my father to take me to the store. I bought the pattern, I bought the material. Mrs. Armstrong just loved this idea because I decided I'd make my mother a robe. But not just any robe. This had to be a special robe, because I wanted to see my mother dressed up in the house. So I was making her a caftan. Now, is anybody familiar with a caftan? I'll just show you a quick picture. Now, this is very similar to the one that I made for my mother. And this caftan is something that has been around for thousands of years. Men and women wear these caftans. They could have belts or no belts, and they're just like a garment that you could wear as a robe or just something to cover over your dress. This was perfect for my mother. And I set about making this caftan for her. And Mrs. Armstrong said, "You'll be able to get this done for Christmas. Don't worry, Elizabeth, I'll help you." And making it wasn't really that difficult, but it was the hem that was the challenge. Because let me show you in this picture what the caftan looks like when you have your arms out. There's these bell sleeves, goes all the way down to the ankles. Okay. Now, I said to Mrs. Armstrong, I'm going to hand stitch I'm going to machine stitch the hem. And she said, oh no, Elizabeth, it'll mean much more to your mother if you hand sew it. Okay, we're talking about not just around the ankles, this all around the sleeves, the whole thing. I wouldn't be able to get this done, not during my sewing class. And I would go home every day after school. I had this project hidden in my closet, and I'd go and I'd sit down and I would keep sewing and sew around it as much as I could do until I heard, Elizabeth Ann, come on out, you gotta help get the plate set for the dinner, or whatever it was I had to do. And she couldn't understand why I was so moody, why I would isolate myself in my room. It was just such strange behavior. And then I knew, my father was the only one who knew that I was working on this top secret project, and I'm sure he said, June, just let her be, she'll get over it, just a girl. And this, I couldn't wait to get it done for Christmas, and I did. Christmas morning, I couldn't wait for my mother to open it up. Now, one of the things that I would do when I would sew something is I put a little tag right in the neckline that said, especially handmade by Elizabeth. And when she opened up the caftan, she looked at it and she didn't have to say anything. She knew immediately that that's what I had been doing, that I had been working on making this for her all that time. And I was so proud when she stood up, and the caftan just has a hole at the top, so she had to put that over this perfect bun. But she carefully did, and it just draped on her so elegantly, all the way to her ankles, and the sleeves, she looked like this angel. It was just beautiful because the caftan was very much like the one in that picture. It was these rainbow type color, little flowers all over it. It just set nicely with her complexion, and I was happy to see that. And I thought, Mrs. Armstrong, really, I understood the meaning. That was a lot of love that I put into that for my mother, and that meant a lot to me as an 8-year-old, just giving her something that I had made with my own 2 little hands. And even though I don't have any picture of that caftan or any picture of my mother in the caftan, but seeing her and that memory that I have from that morning when she put it on is forever stitched in my heart.